going to show you today is from this book, the good old Mary Berry cookbook. And this is a pumpkin pie. It's not the sweet one, it's a savoury one. So don't think that it's going to be in a tart case or anything like that. It's going to be a bit like sort of a casserole, but you put a cover on it. So it's a savoury tart, a savoury pie, sorry. I'm going to sort of do most of what she says here, but then I'm going to add a few little things of my own just to give it a little bit more of a Claire twist, shall we call it. But it's another good way of using up a load of the pumpkins that you've got. If you've grown a load this year and you're not quite sure what to do with them all. This will freeze very, very well. What I suggest you do is, if you do want to freeze a load of it, make the inside, the contents, and freeze that, and then take that out, and when you want to use it, then put the pastry case on the top. The pastry case will freeze the pastry on the top, but I think it's nicer when it's just been baked. But I will put all of the recipe of this and what I do on the bottom of this, so you can see. So let's start by making a savoury pumpkin pie. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up this onion. Now this onion is actually huge, it's enormous, so I think I will only use half of this. If you've got a couple of smaller onions, then use a couple of smaller onions, but this is just massive beyond belief. When you're cutting the onion, leave, if you've got to cut it in slices, in chunky bits, then leave the root intact, because then it holds it all together. So I'll just take the end off, and then I will just peel off any of the outer bits of skin, because we don't want those. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in chunks. Okay, so I'll cut it in half like this, then I'll cut it again in half, and as you see, I'm going through the roots, so it's all holding together. There's nothing worse than having onion shooting out all over the board, because it can get quite slippy. And then I will just cut each section, each quarter, into 3. Okay, just like that. So I've got nice big chunky bits. That's the thing you want with a casserole, is the vegetables to be chunky. Now in my oven-proof and hob-proof, flame-proof dish here, I'm going to put a little bit of oil, just olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, then use some vegetable oil. I've most probably put about 2 tablespoons of oil in there. I know it seems like a lot, but there are an awful lot of vegetables that have got to go in here. Now, first of all, I'm going to put the onions in, and then I'm going to put this on the hob, and I'm going to cook the onions just for a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes or so, until they're nice and soft. Now, whilst the onions are cooking, you need to get ready all the other vegetables that you're going to put in there. I've got a stick and a half of celery here, which I've cut up into sort of medium-sized dice, I would say. I've also got a couple of carrots here, left the skins on, just give them a wash. I'm not one for wasting all the goodness in the skin, so I usually leave on the skins of the carrots and the potatoes. And you also need a couple of sort of middly sized potatoes. I've got one there, and again these are cut up into sort of medium dice. They're all about the same size. So if there are any other vegetables that you've got that you want to put in, like a parsnip or some turnips or Swedes or kohlrabi or anything like that, then please feel free to put them in. But just make sure that all the vegetables are cut up to roughly the same size. Now the only other vegetable that we haven't cut up so far that is going in there is the pumpkin. And we need 1 pound of pumpkin once it has been de-seeded and it has been skinned. And again, cut that up into the same size as the rest of the vegetables. So I'll just get the pumpkin all sorted and then I will show you when I'm done. Now when your onions have started to soften, they'll go a little bit brown round the outside, just like that. And then when that happens, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some chorizo to that. So I've got a chorizo ring here. Make sure you take the skin off, and because there's always a little bit of skin on there. Make sure you take that skin off and then just cut it into chunks, little circles like that. And then just put that in with the onions. Just cook it for a little while just to start to release all those wonderful flavours and colours as well. Now hopefully you can see that chorizo has started to release some of those beautiful colours, and the onions are starting to turn. When this starts to happen, then you need to add in all of the vegetables that you've cut up. So there's our 1 pound of pumpkin, and here are our couple of potatoes, our 2 carrots and our stick and a half of celery. Give it a good mix round so that the oil that's in the dish starts to coat all of the vegetables that are in there. What we'll then do is we'll season with some salt and some pepper. Just put a little bit in now. We can always add a little bit more later on. Right, now we need to add a little bit of curry powder. It depends how hot you want it. I've only got a hot curry powder here, so I am adding about well, 1/3 of a teaspoon, but I'll try it a little bit later on, and if it needs just a little bit more, then I'll put a little bit more in. If you have curry paste instead, then use that. Give it a good mix round, and then we need to add the stock. Now in this jug I've got about a pint of stock. If you're keeping this vegetarian, obviously you won't be putting the chorizo in, and use a vegetable stock cube, but I've actually got a chicken one in here. I've also used some of the liquid. When I boiled the pumpkins for when I made the muffins, I saved that water, and that's in here as well. So whichever way you do your stock, it doesn't really matter, but pour it all in and then put the temperature up as high as it will go. Give it a good old stir. Make sure everything is incorporated really well. Put a lid on it and then bring it to the boil and let it boil for about 20 minutes. Okay, so whilst the pumpkin and vegetable mixture is simmering for about 20 minutes, now is the perfect time to start making the suet pastry to go on top. In here I've got 8 ounces of self-raising flour and 5 ounces of suet. You can either get vegetable suet or beef suet, it doesn't really matter. Obviously if you're a vegetarian then you need to get the vegetable suet. And into that I am also going to add some chopped fresh parsley. Okay, and then to bring it all together, all I need is enough water to bring it together. Make sure you add cold water to it, so add some to it, mix it up and keep going until it forms a ball. Now make sure that you get all the bits of flour from the bottom of the bowl. When it's all come together, it should be nice and soft. It shouldn't be too sticky. Remember, you can add water, but you cannot take it away. So add it little and often until you've got it the right sort of consistency. Okay, now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this in the bowl. And I'm going to switch the oven on now because by the time it's heated up, the vegetables would be cooked and the pastry can then go on top, and then it'll be ready to go in the oven. Right, now this has been boiling for about 20 minutes now, so I'm going to just test the vegetables. You need to use something that's sharp and just put it in the vegetables. If it goes in easily, then they're done, and this is going in really easily, so the vegetables are done. So I will turn off the heat, and as you can see, you don't want to overboil them because they'll lose their shape. They've still got some they've still kept their shape, and then all we need to do now is to take the vegetables out and put them in the serving dish. Now you need to use a slotted spoon for this, and just take out the vegetables and whatever other stuff you've got in there. Leave the juice in because we just need to add something to that. Okay, so make sure you get as much of the juice out as possible. So if you're going to freeze this, I would freeze it at this point before you put the suet pastry on top. Okay, but if you're going to cook it and eat it for dinner, then obviously continue. So I'll carry on, and when I've drained all of the juice out and got all the vegetables out, then I will come back to you. Now we bring the sauce back to the boil, and when it's boiled, then we add in either the sour cream or the creme fraiche. You need 3 fluid ounces of this, so it's about half of the container that I've got here. So once it comes to the boil, just lower it, add in your creme fraiche or your sour cream, and then bring it back to the boil and keep stirring until it thickens. Now it'll take a couple of minutes to thicken up, but you can tell when it is, and once it's got nice and thick, then just turn it off. And all we need to do now is to add the thickened sauce all over the vegetables like that. Now put the suet pastry on the floured surface, make it into a disc, pat it down a little bit. Make sure that you also put a little bit of flour on the top and possibly some on the rolling pin. And all we need to do is to very gently roll it out, keep turning it so it doesn't stick to the sides, and roll it out until it's slightly bigger than the dish that the vegetables and the chorizos are in. Make sure it's not too thick. We don't want it too thin because we want it to crispen up just nicely. So I would suggest, how thick's that? About 2 or 3 inches, 2 or 3 millimeters possibly. Okay, run your hand over the top just to make sure that it's flat. If it's not completely flat, it doesn't really matter. Now to make the pastry stick, just give the edge of the dish a little wipe, a little brush with some water, just some cold water, and then we are going to very carefully place the pastry on top, gently push it down. As you can see, I'm pushing it in a little bit so that it goes right down and around, and it keeps hopefully as much of the juice inside the pie as possible. And once you've pushed it down gently, don't force it down, just push it down gently, then just cut off, then just cut off any of the excess. And this excess, you can, if you felt like being artistic, you can make some little decorations to go on top, which I think I might do. Well, you know, it is a pumpkin pie after all. So I'm going to put a little pumpkin on there. To make these stick to what's underneath, you just need to put a little dab of water. There's his two eyes, and there's his mouth. The only other thing that I will do is I'm going to make some holes in here so that the steam can work its way out. I just put in about 3, I think that should be more than enough. So now I need to put that in the oven, gas mark 5, in the middle of the oven for about 15 minutes. Right, well, I've had it in for 20 minutes. I looked after 15, it wasn't quite brown enough for me, so I put it in for another 5 minutes, and I think that looks absolutely beautiful. So here is my version with the help of Mary Berry of my pumpkin pie. I suggest that if you're going to eat it now, straight away, then just leave it to sit for about 5 minutes, just so it cools down just a tiny bit, and the sauce doesn't sort of splurge up when you cut it. Well, I hope you give that pie a go. I'm definitely looking forward to eating that one. So there's another thing that you can do with all those wonderful pumpkins that you've grown this year. Well, I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye bye.